So we'll go ahead and get started. Here, let me get where you can see me real quick. Hi, everybody. I'm Ashley Siegert, and this is 3 Secrets to 6 Figures with Birth Photography. I'm going to screen share over to my slideshow, but at some point, I have a alarm set to make sure I don't miss you guys. I'll turn that off so it doesn't go off. Ooh, Northern Ireland. Awesome. I love it when I get international students in the webinars because there are so many things that are different about birth in the different countries. And so feel free to tell me in the chat if anything that I'm talking about, what we do here in the US, is different from how things work in your country. I've got a lot of students that come in from the UK and from Australia. And so mainly because I'm only sending out the Facebook ads to English speaking countries at the moment, because I haven't figured out the whole put them in different languages thing for the course yet, but I'm working on it. And so definitely tell us, if things are a little bit different in the country that you're working in. This webinar is, based on my own personal experiences, which are experiences in the US. So we can only learn and grow when we are sharing stuff from other countries. So that's exciting. Okay, I'm going to switch over to the screen share real quick. Okay, so once again, this is 3 Secrets to 6 Figures with Birth Photography. So do me a favor, go ahead and turn off all your distractions, your social media, your email, your music, anything that might pull your focus away. I will do my very best to make sure every minute is jam-packed with value to keep you away from those distractions for the next hour. But it will just help to make sure that you are kind of focused on what we're talking about and kind of grasp the concepts as the best way possible. And then we'll go from there. So why are you here? What are you looking to learn? What brought you in? Once again, feel free to jump in and tell me those things. And I will try to make sure that, I will kind of direct any of the things that we're sharing in this particular hour into those experiences. And then we will kind of expand on that. But really more for yourself. I want you to kind of take a moment and think, why is it that you wanted to take this webinar? What is it that intrigued you about the webinar? And then, at the end, kind of figure out, did I deliver that? I really hope so. I'm, doing my best to deliver value to all of you in the time that you have chosen to share with me here. So what I want to teach you is how to build a 6-figure birth photography business with only 2 new clients a month. That's the basic overview and the backbone of how my business is run right now. And so I'm going to share that breakdown and that framework with you over the next hour, and how I don't use just births, but birth and a 1-year portrait package to create those numbers, and how that breaks down. So my goal today is to show you that internal backbone of my business that has recently retired my husband from his teaching job and allows me to serve my clients at a really high level, and to show you how birth photography can be that key differentiator that'll help you do the same thing. And if you stay till the end, so I'm giving away a free 30-minute mentoring session with me, and I'll show you how you can apply for that, or how you can jump onto that. And so at the end, I will show you how that works. And that's something I'm not even selling that right now because of time constraints. I'm not selling one-on-one mentoring at the moment. So it's not something you can buy, just email me and buy at the moment, just because I'm really spending my time and focused my efforts onto my photo clients and my course and my family. So this isn't something you can buy. So stay till the end and I'll show you how you can get that free 30-minute phone call with me. So what makes this different? Well, a few things. First, I've been shooting births for years, and I am constantly looking for resources to show me how to polish my craft. And I want to know what the other experts are doing. And we can all always improve. So I haven't really in the past been able to find that. There really has been a major hole in the market for birth photography education. And so, we can get instruction on how to pose a newborn in 1,000 places, how to shoot a wedding, how to use studio lights, and all that has been available for a while. And it's brought the baseline of the quality of the industry so far up in other genres. But most of us have been forced to learn on the job when it comes to births. And there's such a huge hole in that available education. And so I really wanted to fix that. And the other piece is learning how to incorporate it into your business structure for maximum efficiency and maximum profitability so that it doesn't consume your life, especially because with the unpredictable nature of births, there is a certain amount of time commitment that comes with just being in the hospital or just being at the birthing center or at the births and waiting it out. And so you don't want to then come home and have to spend hours and hours behind your computer trying to figure out your marketing and your editing and all that kind of stuff. So I really wanted to show you kind of how I've streamlined that so that I'm able to take on these birth clients and that time commitment is not crazy on the time commitment that I'm away from my family and I'm away from the things that I want to be doing and the whole reason I have a business and the lifestyle that it can create. So who am I to be teaching you this? So I have shot births for over 4 years. I've had my business for about 6, but I shot my first birth about 2 years in. I have recently retired my husband from his teaching job, and he has come and he helps work the business with me, but mainly he's come home to be a stay-at-home dad because let's face it, most women will not tell you this, but he is much more cut out to be a stay-at-home parent than I am. He's been a middle school band director for 13 years. And so he has a lot of experience not negotiating with terrorists, which is the same in middle school and toddlerdom. So he is home with our 2-year-old most of the time. And so I am the premier birth photographer in my market. The doctors and hospitals, when they are asked, they do refer me more than anybody else in my market. I only know really of a couple other people doing this in my area at the moment. And so I have kind of become the person that all the doctors are referring at this point. I do have my CPP and my Master Craftsman Photography degree from BPA. So the CPP is a technical certification. And if any of you have been through it, it's you basically take a written exam about the technical side of photography. And then you put together a portfolio that shows that you know how to execute certain concepts. And then that portfolio goes in front of a panel of judges. And so they award you your CPP at the end of that. And then the photographic craftsman degree is a teaching degree. And so I did actually get most of those credits teaching this birth photography in 1-year program. And then the other courses that I taught were mostly studio share. So I share my studio with, at the moment, 2 other photographers. But the photographer that I used to share a studio with until her husband got transferred and moved, she and I would teach together about how to build your businesses in collaboration with the other photographers in your market so that you guys are actually like educating the market as a whole and you are using each other's resources and really playing to each other's strengths. And so that's something that's really dear to my heart is building the photographic community and really getting rid of any territorial negativity that we can end up having toward each other as photographers. I am all about being really tight with the other photographers in my market because you never know when you're going to need help. You never know when you're going to need a backup. Or, I did an event one time and I showed up to shoot kind of a photo booth type setup. And the year before at the exact same event, they had built this incredible set for me and I was just brought in to shoot. And the second year, something got miscommunicated and I showed up and there was not even a backdrop. And I had 4 photographers that I could call that could bring me a backdrop, stand in a backdrop within 20 minutes and, saved my butt. And so those stories, like I have 1,000 of those stories of different photographers, when you have community together, then you're able to really band together and do some amazing things that can really raise your bottom line and raise the bottom line of everybody involved instead of being competitive. So like I said, I get to do what I love. I'm home to raise my son. I do have a degree in education. And so The other side of it is that this business structure has allowed me the time to teach again, which I really love. I never really wanted to be in the public school classroom, but I always have had a heart for teaching. And so this being able to build these programs has been just something I've really enjoyed. And nobody really is teaching the content in the manner that I've put together here yet. I have seen a couple other courses come out literally in the last 2 weeks while I have been doing webinars and kind of showing what my course is about. But I have not, it's really brand new. It's a brand new market. And so, I'm your girl. I'm here. If I can help, I want to help. So a little bit about my backstory. I grew up in Atlanta, and I went to school in South Carolina. Like I said, I have an education degree, and for a while I was also going to be a sign language interpreter. And after I graduated from college, I met my husband, and he was living in Texas. We met at his sister's wedding, and so we did the long distance thing for a while, and then eventually decided we were going to consolidate here in Texas. And when we did, and I came out here, I was trying to figure out getting work out here for the things that I had been doing back home. I was working in television mostly because my family's been in television for a long time. And the TV crewers didn't know I was out here, so I wasn't getting much work. So I was doing some substitute teaching at my husband's school, and, just stuff here and there. But I found a magazine that needed an ad sales rep in my area. And so I went over and I applied and got the job, and suddenly I was selling advertising. And so I knew it would get me in with the local business scene. I would get to know all the different business owners because I was going to be trying to sell ads to them. But I didn't, I didn't know what I was doing. So I was learning on the fly, which is the best sales education, honestly, that you can get. It's just, getting thrown into the deep end and having to make cold calls and that kind of thing. It'll break your spirit a little bit, but you'll build back up a better salesperson in the end. And in the end, we are all running businesses and we are all having to be salespeople. And so the skills that you can gain from that kind of thing are huge. And so then my magazine started asking if I would take some pictures of my clients and their businesses for our blog and our magazine. And I figured if I was going to get published, I should probably know what I was doing. So I took a course in shooting and manual at the local community center, and I fell in love. I caught the bug. And I think a lot of us get that, where we find a camera, we pick up a camera, and that's it. This is my medium. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And that's what it was. So I started finding any way that I could get my camera on somebody. I joined the local Photographers Guild. I joined any meetups I could find. I started taking other photographers out to coffee. I was, figuring out aperture by lining up oranges in front of my house and, sitting outside and trying to figure out which one's going to be blurry and how does that work? And, the same things that we've all done, trying to figure it all out. It's, it's a grind, and but you fall in love with it and you gain that passion. And so as time went on, I started shooting for a nonprofit, which is called Preemie Prints. And so we were doing a lot of shoots for families that had been through the NICU process, the neonatal intensive care unit. And we were donating shoots to those families, because when you're going through the ICU process, it's expensive here in the States. With the way healthcare works out here, it's super expensive. And so all of the disposable income you would have spent on newborn photos, it wasn't going to happen. So there's a local friend of mine who had started this foundation because she had preemies, and it has now become a national organization. And, if any of you are interested, if you're in the States, I can get you hooked up if you're interested in looking into them as well. You can send me an email and I'll get you situated on that. And so, just after about 2 years, I got a request to do a birth. And I figured, what, if I go into this and I come out totally traumatized, that's fine. And I will never shoot another one. But the other side of it is I may come out totally, completely in love with this genre. And I did. I came home flying and I was just ready, let's do this. Let's shoot as many births as we can get our hands on. And so, but the struggle was there just wasn't, I couldn't go and find a course and become an expert in it very quickly. And so that was really frustrating. And I had to learn, on my clients, which I highly do not recommend. We want to go in being experts instead of going in being, being, practicing on our clients. If we're going to charge, we need to go and know what we're doing. So it's hard when there's not resources out there available. So in that time, I've done a lot of things right, and I've done a lot of things wrong. But I found after doing this for 6 years that it is a few things. First of all, it is much cheaper to keep clients coming back than to try attracting new ones over and over and over again. And when you look at how marketing breaks down, you'll have, at the end of the day, how much it costs for you to get a new client in the door. And that cost of getting that new client in the door for whatever your marketing strategy is going to go drastically way down if you can get that client coming back over and over and over again. And the one thing that keeps your client coming back over and over again is trust. And birth photography builds a crazy amount of trust because you're actually in the room with them during one of the most intimate moments of their lives. And they just fall in love with you as part of their tribe and part of their group. And there's just no better way to build that relationship with your clients that keeps them completely loyal to you. So the hard way, which we've all done a zillion times, and we will still have some of these clients. We will still have a few clients that will contact us and only want one shoot, and then we never see them again. And that's fine. Like we can still, I never turn those clients away. Do I try to upsell them into becoming my, recurring amazing clients? Absolutely. But occasionally you're just going to get that client that just wants one shoot and then you never see them again. And you can't stress over that. But the hard way is to convince a client to hire you, shoot and deliver one session, rinse and repeat, doing that over and over again. And so that's where your cost of acquiring a new client goes way up because you're having to always keep filling that funnel of convince a new client to hire you over and over again. And so that becomes much more expensive. So, of course, all of us want the easy way that puts your business into a six-figure framework. I have actually built my business with the average pregnant couple as a $5,000 to $6,000 a year client in that first year. And I know you're thinking like, whoa, what? How, those numbers are silly. Like I could never do that in my town, in my market. My market's really small, et cetera, et cetera. And we're going to touch on that. So don't freak out. But I want you to know, like, I don't live in a huge town, and we'll kind of go into that in a minute as well. But like, this is actually doable. So stay with me. So the basic framework of my 1-year program is threefold. So I start with the birth. Then we do 4 sessions. We do generally a newborn 4-month, 8-month, and 12-month session. However, I do allow them to change that up a little bit. I do let them kind of be a little bit fluid on when they want those sessions. So I do get a lot of clients that choose to do a maternity session before the birth and then newborn 6-month, 12-month. And then also if they decide they want to add sessions in, I can do that as well at a discounted rate. But I just sell that 4 sessions as a session fee pack. So it's $500 for 4 sessions. And each of those sessions, they then come back in for a new sales session after each one. So I see them after each session. I see them again for a sales session after each of those 4 portrait sessions. So then at the end, when they turn 1 year, after that session is over, I pre-design an album. So when they come in for that 4th portrait sales session, they see a pre-designed album with images from all of the birth and all 4 sessions. And so then they have this yearbook of their baby. If they haven't, put together a baby book for that whole year, that's fine. They can just purchase the album and go from there. And they can also, I let them, or I encourage them to do a duplicate album as a picture book for grandparents. And so that takes care of a lot of Christmas gifts and birthday gifts, things like that. I think when my son turned 1, we actually ordered 6 of those picture books because we have so many grandparents across the board that we had to love on. And so think about if you sell in that 1-year portrait session, you sell the big coffee table album and 6 grandparent books, like it's crazy. And so that's how it works. So we do the birth I do actually include digitals in the birth coverage. However, the other model is to do an album with the birth session, and that's fine too. But because I include the birth images in the 1-year album, I do a birth digital collection included in my sales, and then 4 portrait sessions with in-person sales sessions with projection sales, and then the album at the end. So at the end of that, my average client spends about $5,500 in that year. Often it's more, sometimes it's less, but that's kind of the minimum average. And so if we break that down, and I'm going to even take $500 off of that. So say we only sold $5,000 to that client over that course of that year, and we did 2 of those new clients a month, then, and I mean, think about that, just two. If you put this structure into your business and you just get 2 new clients a month, that's $10,000 a month once they're running through the cycle. If you make $10,000 a month times 12 months, it's $120,000 a year. And there's your 6-figure business with room to spare. So I know that you're like, wait, what? You just jumped. And I totally understand. But think about that. $5,000 over the course of the year, and you get 2 of those new clients a month is $10,000 times 12 months is $120,000. It's super simple. I am not in a big city. And actually, some of you, I'm sure, have been seeing that on the news, everything that's going on in South Texas. I'm about an hour and 20 from Houston, hour and 20 minutes from Houston. But my town of College Station, the average household income in my market is $33,400. We have about 100,000 population before students. We do live in a major university town. And so this is the median income in my area. I have done my homework, done the research, and I'm here to tell you, like, I thought when I heard other photographers teaching these kinds of numbers, I thought it was crazy. I thought there's no way. But I kind of held my nose and I jumped in and I tried it and it works. So I'm here. I'm here as a testament. So if you're running that cycle, if you're running that monthly cycle, 2 new client consultations every month, then you'll have a little bit of upstart time, but then you'll have 2 births every month, and then 8 portrait sessions, which will come to about 2 a week, and then 8 sales sessions, which will come to about 2 a week. So if you're running it, and occasionally you'll have 3 births in a month and then 1 the next month or things like that, and that's fine. Like different seasons have different strengths and weaknesses, and you may feel a little bit overwhelmed here and there trying to figure out those numbers and those times. But when you really break it down, it's only 2 client consultations, 2 births, and then each week 2 portrait sessions and 2 sales sessions. So that leaves you a ton of time to either add more if you want, or shoot something else if you want to shoot, not just babies in your business. We actually are a very strange type of business where my 2 specialties are, babies and drone work and architecture and light painting. So 2 totally different markets. But because of the way that I've implemented this into my business, I'm able to then take on commercial clients with light painting and drone work, and my husband's a drone operator, and we have a great time. It's just a blast. So that allows you kind of the time to do other things so that you're not completely pigeonholed in one space if you don't want to be. And if you want to be, great, just add more to your docket and you can raise that sales total even more. So one disclaimer, you do need to understand how to use your camera, basic camera accessories, lights, how to create beautiful images. You just basically need to understand how photography works. And generally, most people that I get coming to me for this type of education, they are already kind of in that space. If not, I can recommend some amazing camera fundamentals classes. But basically, you need to know when you're going into a birthing space, you are going to be combating some different lighting situations, and you need to understand the basics of how your camera works in order to combat those things. And I can teach you, strategies to make it easier to flip back and forth. But if you don't understand the basic fundamentals of how a camera works, I can't, we have to get over that particular part first before I can teach you best practices and strategies for this particular niche. You also need to be comfortable around hospitals and babies, medical facilities. If you don't like babies, this might not be the best place for you. Like they say on the airplane, if this is not your final destination, this is your chance to get off. I totally understand. And, medical facilities, if you get squeamish, if you faint in hospitals, if you can't stand the smell of hospitals, or, if the idea of blood makes you faint, like that's fine, but this might not be the best niche for you. And I completely understand that as well. So what has it done for me? Like I said, I get to do what I love. My husband has retired to be a stay-at-home dad. I work from home unless I'm at a birth or if I'm shooting at my studio. I actually do all my sales and consultations in my home, and all my editing and all my computer work in my home. I have a little consultation space with my computer where I do everything kind of in the front of the home. And so I'm here with my son. I do have help. I have a babysitter that comes and hangs out and plays with them, but I'm here if something happens, which is amazing. And I also, I gave birth myself with much less fear. It's a lot easier to give birth when you've seen 20 other people do it before you ever do it yourself. And it was actually really funny because when my son was born, we're talking about hurricanes going on here in Texas. When my son was born, there was a hurricane in South Carolina, and my backup photographer actually got stuck there because he was 2 weeks early. And so I ended up doing a fresh 48 with another photographer friend, which is another reason I was so glad to have my photographer community here in town, was because I had more people that I could call and come and make sure that I had those precious images for myself. And, then I also have time to teach, and I get to meet the most amazing people, like the people in the birth space, like they're wonderful. They're just, as a general rule, they're pretty wonderful. You're always going to get one angry nurse here and there, but that's just kind of life, and they have to go home and be angry with themselves too. And I feel bad for that sometimes, but the clients that you're going to get to know and the professionals that you're going to get to know in this space are just really, really cool tribe of people that you're going to enjoy a lot. So let's talk about those amazing perks of birth photography. So the good stuff. You get to watch life come into the world, and you get to see families change. Like 1 minute there's no person there, and then there's a person there, and that just never gets old. You never lose that rush whenever you get to see it happen over and over. You get to become really good friends with your clients. I have clients that, weekly send me updates of what the babies are doing and, how they're progressing and how they're developing. And, I love that. I love that they get to the point where they feel so strongly about me being part of their world that they're sending me, the same updates that they're sending all the grandparents. And that's just heartwarming. It is very educational. You will learn something every time you go into a birth. You will learn something new. In many different areas, whether you're, kind of shooting the breeze with dad and you learn stuff about what's going on with their family, or if, you learn something about just the way the human body works and how birth happens and those types of things. You're never going to run out of things that you learn in a birthing space. And so it never gets boring. So let's talk a little bit about my banana theory. I teach this in every course that I teach, whether it's a birth course or not. Basically, what has happened with online education in the world right now is that we are all starting to learn from this, a lot of the same people, which is great because there are people who have figured out the best way to do things. There are people who have figured out the best way to go about different things. And whether it be lighting or posing or props or color palettes or any of that kind of thing. And that's great. And it's great for us to learn how they have executed it and figure out, how that works best in our business and, be able to replicate it so that you can understand the science and the logistics of how those people work. But at the end of the day, what we're starting to see is a lot of this same newborn photography over and over and over again. And, it's okay for the client who sees something out in the world and wants that and knows that there are many places that they can go and get it. And that's good to a certain extent. But we got into this because we love being artists. And part of being an artist is spinning whatever it is that you have learned into your own art and to make it your own and to make it different. And the downside of replicating what we see others do in photography is that it becomes a commodity, and our clients then, when they decide they want this specific look, this specific feel, then they go out and they can find at the moment 2 or 3 other photographers in your market that are doing that exact same thing. And then it becomes a war of price. And we never want to be working with our clients on price. We never want to be competing against the other people in our community on price. We want to be doing something totally different that our clients are absolutely in love with and that they can't do without. And so they're excited to hand us their money because they love what we do. And I really try to practice what I preach on this. And so I have invested in, art pieces of my family from other artists that I admire, whether they be painters or other photographers or digital artists. And so I'm really intensive that every year we have some kind of new piece done of our family, because I want to practice what I preach. I want my clients to come into my home because that's where my consultation and sales space is. And I want them to see that I have spent money and I have invested in the artists that I love as well. And so like last year I had a painting done. There's a local painter in our community that does paintings of those old Little People toys. And so she'll pick out the ones that look like your family and set them up in some kind of way that represents what your family does on a regular basis. And so my husband's a musician, so there was a little person at a piano, and then me with a camera, and my son because he was a baby, and then one of the Little People, and I had it painted on like this Scrabble board, and it's hanging in our home. And at that point I didn't even care what she was charging for it because I fell in love with it and I had to have it. And that's what we want to create for our clients. We want to create where they see what we've done and we see how different it is. And, whatever it costs, I have to have it. And that way we're not competing against anybody in our market. We're just identifying with the clients who are going to be the right clients for us. And then we're able to charge what we want to charge to be sustainable in our businesses. So I call it, if you're competing on price, they're comparing apples to apples. And so you want to be the banana. You want them to be looking at the 2 apples and being like, which apple should I choose? And then they see the banana and they're like, I don't even want an apple. I want a banana. So that's how the analogy that I use to teach it. So become a banana. Okay. So this webinar is called The 3 Secrets to Six Figures. So let's get into those 3 secrets. I'm going to highlight them a little bit right now, and then we'll go through more in depth here in a second. So first of all, families want to remember everything about their babies and they're terrified of missing something or forgetting something. Second of all, birth photography trend is growing rapidly and the hospitals actually want you to come shoot there. And third, when you have been with a client through childbirth, you become part of their tribe and they will stay with you, which is something I'm just going to harp on about 500 times throughout the webinar, is that once you do a birth with a client, they're just not going to leave you. They're not going to jump ship and go work with another photographer unless you do something terrible. So secret number 1, families want to remember everything about their babies and they're terrified of missing or forgetting something. So this is the Holub family. These are some of my favorite clients. I'm obsessed with this couple. They're just the sweetest. So when Meredith was pregnant with Avery, she went past her due date. I was on call. I was waiting to hear, when she was going to deliver. And they had decided to go ahead and induce. And so the day of the induction, they were supposed to go in super early, but a lot of women the night before had gone into natural labor. And so the hospital was packed and they couldn't get them in until almost noon, I believe, that day. So then they started the Pitocin and baby wasn't reacting great to the Pitocin. And so they were backing it off a little bit and the heart rate wasn't exactly what they wanted. And so by about 6 o'clock that evening, I hadn't heard anything and I was getting a little concerned, like, we're not progressing, what's going on? And then about 8 o'clock, my phone rang and Tim, Meredith's husband, said, oh gosh, C-section. And I said, emergency C-section? He said, yes. And that was the whole conversation. We hung up. I was on my way. I got to the hospital. The family was out in the waiting room. I kind of buzzed in to see if the nurses would let me back. And they said, no, emergency C-section, nobody's allowed in. Dad wasn't even allowed in. And so I wasn't able to get the birth. Well, about 20 minutes later, maybe 30 minutes later, a nurse came out and ushered me back into the nursery, and Tim was there holding the baby. And a little backstory also, they had decided they didn't want to know the sex of the baby until she arrived. And so then they also wanted to find out together. But what had happened was she had a prolapse cord, which means the umbilical cord was coming out before the baby. And so every time she contracted, the baby's head was pressing on the umbilical cord, which was cutting off blood flow to the baby. And so it was dropping her heart rate. So once they figured that out, they rushed her into emergency surgery. And because she had not yet had an epidural, they had to put her out. So they both completely missed the birth of their child. So all of us were unable to be a part of it. So when I got back to the nursery and Tim was holding the baby, he still did not know the sex of the baby because he wanted to wait until his wife Meredith woke up and they could find out together. So I got a few shots of him holding the baby in the nursery, and then he went back to hang out with Meredith until she kind of woke up and recovered. And then I was in the nursery with the nurse, and we were there, the nurse started doing all the measurements and weighing the baby and bathing the baby and all those types of things with just her and I in there. So I was able to get all of those images of the things that this family was missing because mom was still asleep and dad was back there with her waiting to find out the sex of the baby, which he couldn't do if he was watching her be bathed. So, when all that was kind of getting wrapped up, the nurse looked at me and said, if you want to go back to, with the family, you're more than welcome. And I was like, absolutely not. You and I are about to be real good friends. No, ma'am. They're going to eat me alive if I go in there because I have information they want. I'm not doing that. So I hung out in the nursery for a while. And then I finally was able to go back into recovery where Meredith was. She had woken up. They brought the baby in. They found out it was a girl, and it was a beautiful thing. So I was able to give this family back the whole first hour of their daughter's life that they just completely missed. So I have a little video here of them giving their side of the story. So I'll play that real quick. Hang on.
When they told me they were rushing me into emergency surgery, the first thing I said was call the photographer because I knew I was going to miss a lot. And so it was very important to me to be able to get those moments captured. Going into your first delivery, you think, oh, well, I'm going to have all this done in the room and I want to be a part of it and I'm really excited. And then you end up missing all of it because it's out of your control. So being able to live through those pictures really meant a lot to us.
So, okay. Secret number 2. The birth photography trend is growing rapidly, and the hospitals actually want you to come shoot there. So here's something that a lot of new birth photographers or even established birth photographers I talk to have not really thought about. The way hospitals work in the U.S., we are a private healthcare system. And so the people that they are trying to attract to deliver at their hospitals are the same clients that we are trying to attract. They're those same high dollar clients that they know at the end of the day are going to finish paying off their hospital bill. So they are directing their marketing towards trying to get those high dollar clients to come and deliver so that it can kind of balance out when they have to do, more pro bono work or whatever. At the end of the day, a hospital is a business and they want the people that are going to pay their bills. And the more affluent clients are going to pay their bills. Well, the more affluent clients are also going to be the same people that we are trying to get to purchase birth photography. So they have figured out that if they allow birth photographers to come and work in their hospitals, that the clients, the patients that they want to deliver there are going to see that as an extra perk to delivering in that hospital. If they can't bring their birth photographer, they're going to be less likely to choose to deliver there. So that has really urged hospitals to let us come and shoot there. The problem with that is that it puts an incredible responsibility on us to make sure that we are doing this responsibly and we are doing this professionally. Because when we walk into a hospital room, we are working in somebody else's workspace. We are working in a medical facility where it's the nurse's office, it's the doctor's office, and it is not our office. We are there to be a documentarian. And so we need to take that very seriously and very responsibly and make sure that we are not crossing any lines when it comes to the way we behave. And so when I talked to the doctors and I said, what is it that could get somebody kicked out? A lot of times they've said, really, it's, if you're saying anything inappropriate or you're talking about things that you're not an expert in, you're not there for that. You're there to take pictures. And so we kind of need to, I don't like the term stay in our lane, but in this particular instance, it kind of rings true. So we need to act professionally and we need to come across as a unified front as birth photographers, that we're there to do a job, and we're not just there to be silly and goof off and be a know-it-all and those kinds of things. And so here I have, I kind of got a little bit off track there, but here I have Dr. Appleton, who is the head of the department at the hospital that I work at the most often, talking a little bit about that for a second here.
As obstetrics is changing, we're all now focused on making a much more relaxed atmosphere for women who are low risk. We want women to be able to move around more, to be able to be part of their birth experience, be part of making decisions. And everybody wants pictures of their baby. So
one of the things that she told me is just that, because they're changing the way that birth is perceived over time. Ooh, and I am getting Esther saying it is a little bit different in the UK and Northern Ireland, and feel free to throw that in to the chat box and kind of tell me what is different. And I'm excited to kind of see how it is different in the UK and a lot of the places that have national medicine. This is going to be a little bit different, but I have talked to different photographers in different countries, and I have heard good things about how many of their hospitals are reacting to birth photography as well. And so there's always room for us to learn how things are happening in the rest of the world. And so I'm super eager to see kind of what the different countries you guys are experiencing there. So secret number 3, when you have been through with a client through childbirth, you do become part of their tribe and they will stay with you. So once again, this is one of my more recent families that I photographed in June, I believe. They delivered, this is baby Noah. They delivered him about 5 weeks early. And it was actually a really funny story. One Friday evening, I did their maternity session, and she was just a really tiny person, and her belly had not popped for a really long time. So we waited and waited for the maternity session because it didn't look like she was pregnant until right at the end. And so he wasn't due for about 5 more weeks. And so one Friday night, we did their maternity session. And then Saturday morning, I get this text. It was about 11 a.m. I get this text that says, "I'm really glad that we did the maternity photos last night because my water just broke." And I was like, you have got to be kidding me. They had spent most of the evening, most of the night up preparing for garage sale. And as they were finishing up and cleaning up their garage sale, her water broke. And I actually have footage from their home security camera of her coming out and telling her husband, Nick, that her water had broke, and he cursed and ran into the house. And I was actually able to use that video in their slideshow, which was lots of fun. And they went to the hospital, and I came in a few hours later once I knew she was progressing. And I ended up still being there with them for about 12 hours. And at the end, when Noah was born, he just wasn't getting mad enough. He wasn't quite, his color wasn't great. They just weren't happy with kind of how he was coming along as, that first half hour, 45 minutes was going. So they decided to transport him to the NICU. And when they made that decision, and when the baby nurse made that call, I looked up at her and I said, would it be okay? May I go with him to the NICU and give those photos as well? And she said, absolutely. And in that moment, I looked up at Nick, the dad. I looked up at his face, and I saw this wave of relief come over him. And what I realized was that he had this understanding that somebody from his tribe, somebody in his world, one of his team, was going with the baby while he was able to stay behind with mom. And it just made him much more comfortable. And what I realized was the power of me being a part of their tribe and having an extra body in there, that the medical professionals understood kind of what we were doing and why I was there. I was able to kind of bridge that gap and bridge that space between the medical professionals and the family and be a part of that team. And so it was just really powerful. To update you, Noah was only in the NICU for a week. He was great. He didn't have any eating problems. He just needed to get mad and clear out his lungs and all that. So after about a week, he went home. And so the top left picture is actually from their newborn session just a week later. So all is well. And like I said, I get updates from them all the time, like weekly. Okay. So back to kind of how I structure the business. This is the M family. They did their birth 4 sessions in the album, and in the end, spent about $6,340. What I loved about this family, it was baby Henry in the middle. It was his birth. They knew it was going to be their 3rd and final, and so they hadn't done birth photography before, but they knew it was going to be their last baby, so they wanted to go ahead and do it. And they decided actually halfway through, when Henry was about 6 months old, they decided to move, and they actually came back into town to finish their 4 sessions, both times with all of the boys. So they made sure each of those 4 sessions was a full family session, which I loved because I got to hang out with the whole family at each session. And I have no problem with extended family, even at newborn sessions. I've seen a lot of photographers that prefer to only shoot the newborn or only shoot newborn mom and dad, but that they don't necessarily let extended family in. And I kind of live on the other side of that. I really love when I can even get like grandparents and aunts and uncles in there. Because at the end of the day, like I said, we're running a business and we are able to get more family members in there. There's just more people that are going to buy pictures. And so I see it as, just greater revenue. So I love when I get full family pictures because I feel like that's my job. My tagline is documenting families. And so I'm here to tell the story of your family. And this is I love that this family took full advantage of that. So this is the H family. So big sister Hattie here, we did her birth and her 4 sessions in her album for a total of about $5,200. And then I found out at her 1-year sales session that mom was pregnant again. So we just started the cycle all over again. So this will end up being over a $10,000 client in 2 years, which is, how many of those can we pack into our schedule, right? And that's the beauty. Is the other thing is that with this system, they often get pregnant again. And then they say, well, we did it all for the first one, so we might as well do it all for the second one as well. So you never know. So new variables in the birth photography niche. First of all, anything can happen. You kind of have to be ready that anything can happen. That's just kind of comes with the territory. There is a little bit of client education. Sometimes you're going to get a block in your client's mind that they're like, ooh, a birth photographer. Why would I want that? Why would I want somebody in the room while I'm delivering a baby? And I have found with the clients that have decided to go through with it, and they tell me, I was hesitant in the beginning because I didn't really understand. But in the end, all the things that I was hesitant about and that I was nervous about became just a non-issue because at the end, I don't remember. There's so much adrenaline. There's so much going on. There's so many people coming in and out. And you kind of have to go into a fight or flight survival mode when you're giving birth. And so you're not in a space of, documenting memories in your mind. And so to be able to go back and see these images has just been so valuable for so many of my clients. And some of them, like I said, if they miss the birth completely, to be able to have those images back at that first time and to be a part of it. And I have a lot of people saying that it has been very healing for them if they felt any sort of trauma or depression afterwards, that being able to go back and look at kind of what happened and process it all in their mind has also been really helpful and really valuable. Lighting conditions can vary. So, different hospital lights, different home births are actually, and birth centers can be a lot darker as well. Hospitals are actually a little bit easier because the medical staff just comes in and flips on lights. And so you end up having a lot more light to work with. But when you're working in a home birth or a birthing center, a lot of times they really try to respect mom's eyes. And so I have had photographers that are just like, it's so dark, what do I do? And I have had to kind of coach them through, asking to turn on a light, because at the end of the day, they hired a birth photographer, they spent money on it. And occasionally, if you have to remind them like, hey, I'm here and I'm doing my job, but like photography needs light, usually they'll be like, oh, absolutely no problem. That's not a big deal. And then if they're really in pain and they just can't handle having light in their eyes, then that's fine. And you can respect that. And, that might not be the moment for the image, or you're cranking your ISO, or you're, bringing in just a little bit of artificial light, on a constant or something, like something small, just briefly. There's different strategies that you can use to do those kinds of things as well. You also may need a backup, and I'm going to talk about my backup photographer here in a second as well. She's wonderful, and what goes back to really investing in your local photographer community. So I know all of that can sound scary, but those are all things that you can overcome super easily. They're all things you can learn, and they're strategies, and so don't worry. But I can't go over all of it in this one short class. We are already going over time for what all I want to teach you. And so I wanted to do it properly. So where can you learn all of those solutions? I have created a full comprehensive video program for anybody that wants to get into birth photography. And so I'll kind of show you everything that's in it at the moment and see if it's right for, what it is that you're looking to get into and looking to do. But I wanted to make sure it had everything you could need to feel like you were putting together a proper birth photography business, or implementing birth photography into your existing business in the most streamlined way possible. I understand that it can be hard to break your old model, but it has brought me more things that I could imagine, namely, first and foremost, the time that I get to spend with these two, because, I am just all about streamlining the process so that I can be done and go hang out with these faces. Because, let's be real, that's ridiculous. They're adorable. So this is my son, Owen, and my husband, Dan, and they're just the light of my world. And so I don't want to be stuck behind my computer all the time. I want to go hang out with these two. So that's why I wanted to share kind of the structure that I've put in place that allows me to do a whole lot more of that. So I'll go over these totals. I want you to know these are what I would have charged for these individual workshops, or what I have charged for these types of workshops in the past. And so if you were to travel to me and take these workshops, then module 1, which has what's in my bag, how to find your marketing message, would be about a $200 workshop, and et cetera. So, and then module 2 is behavior and best practices straight from the experts. Module 3 is choreography on site. Module 4 is delivering and editing and deliverables. Module 5 is marketing and sales. So if you were to come and do like a whole weekend workshop where we did the whole thing, it would be a $2,200 workshop. Module 1 is birth prep. So what's in my on-call bag, what's in my camera bag, what I wear. I actually have branded scrubs. So you can see, and I wore them teaching the whole course. So you see them and kind of how I move in them and whatnot. But I just kind of took my cues from the medical community, because they're all wearing scrubs, and they're super comfortable, and they're, they can move properly, and there's lots of pockets and all that fun stuff. And the scrubs have just been wonderful also from a marketing standpoint, because when I walk into a hospital or I walk into a birthing center, or if my second photographer walks in and she's wearing my branding, they know that it's my company, and they have a trust in my company now. I've built that relationship, but I've built that trust with the birthing facilities here in town. So even if it's not me walking in, if it's my backup photographer, if she's wearing my branding, then they have a certain level of comfort. And that is one of the things that separates me when it comes from a professional feeling, that giving that professional feeling and giving that level of expertise, just to ease the mind in the medical community where we're interacting. And then how to create your marketing message. So kind of, it's an exercise that takes you through just kind of why it is you want to do this, where it comes from in your heart. And when you kind of understand your why, then you're able to move forward and kind of put it out to the world and connect with the people that are going to be the proper clients for you in the future. Module 2 is behavior. So it's the full interview with Dr. Appleton about working in hospitals and OB. I did a super long interview with a friend of mine, Melissa, here in the second picture, who is a labor and delivery nurse in Virginia. So she takes you through the whole process that they go through from their standpoint, so that if you understand what a nurse is doing throughout their throughout their job in a shift with each patient, then you can be a lot more understanding of how things are going and kind of stay out of the way a little bit more, but also know when you can kind of get in there and get the shots that you want. And then Tony, I did a full interview. She is a midwife here in town and runs a birthing center, and she gave us a tour of her birthing center and how she works with her patients within the birthing center as well. So ways to work in the medical setting in the birthing center. She also talks about home births. And so really from their perspective, exactly what it is they're looking for when they want, when they're interacting with us in their space. Also in that, this is my second photographer, Kathy. She's so wonderful. I don't know what I would do without her. And so we do a full interview talking about working with a backup photographer, building your support system, making sure that you have your childcare covered and all of that kind of stuff. And she has been an integral part of that when it comes to growing my business. Before she started second shooting for me or backup shooting for me, I wasn't able to take on as many births because occasionally I would have to travel, or, if we go to photo conferences or things like that, I was going to have to, turn them down if I wanted to take those opportunities. But adding her to my team has allowed a lot more free time in my schedule for those kinds of things. Module 3, the choreography module. This was my favorite. This was so much fun. I am actually in a university town, and so we contacted the medical school here, and they allowed us to come and film in their birth training facility. So we actually had delivery mannequins. So in the left picture, you'll see that's the vaginal delivery mannequin. Her name is Teresa. She's what they call a sim mom, a simulation mom. And she that morning delivered 3 babies, bless her. And then that's actually Kathy and my husband, Dan, playing doctor in the OR for the C-section demonstration. So full choreography demonstrations for both vaginal deliveries and C-sections in this facility, which was just a blast. Module 4 is editing and deliverables. So how I handle digital files from a sales standpoint, selling them in the collections versus selling prints and all that kind of stuff. I do in-person sales. I'm hardcore projection print sales. But how I handle digital files, editing a birth from beginning to end. So I show you how I import it, what interfaces that I use for my raw processing, and how I batch edit everything so that it doesn't take a very long time to edit a birth at all. And I'm able to deliver a full birth gallery within just a few days. Formatting slideshows, digital birth announcements, digital collections. I try to do a same day digital birth announcement. If they didn't deliver in the middle of the night, then if they did, it's next day. But if they deliver in the daytime, I try to get the digital birth announcement out that day so that grandma doesn't beat me to the first Facebook picture. Because the family, basically, they're like, well, we hired a photographer. We would like the nicer pictures to be the first ones that go out on social media. So I make sure and show you kind of how I put together a digital birth announcement as well. Module 5 is marketing and sales. So how to price, which is one of the biggest questions that I always get, is how to figure out pricing. So I take you through an entire exercise with dummy numbers so that you can plug in your own numbers and figure out what you need to do to figure out your pricing. How to handle a consultation. Network marketing. So if you didn't pick up my marketing workbook when you signed up for the webinar, it is in the course as well. And it takes you through how to both build your photographer community and build your baby world community, how to find the people that are already talking to your clients and get them referring you enthusiastically. Some basic digital marketing. You may not know you're already paying for a website if you have Adobe, and Facebook. I'm hoping at some point to do a much more in-depth digital marketing course. That's hopefully going to be my next course for photographers, but this one will touch on the basics just to kind of get you up and going. And then a tour of my consultation and sales space. So this is in my home where I do all my things. There's a whole module of client testimonials. So different clients that I've worked with in the past, their full experiences, how they felt about hiring a birth photographer, why they were hesitant, why they decided to go through with it, and then why they were so excited that they did in the end. And all of these have ended up being repeat birth clients. Actually, I just did this, her second baby earlier this week. Done for you downloads. So this is one of my favorite parts. You don't have to write things because I already wrote it and there's no reason for you to rewrite it. So I have a 20-page shot list that's just kind of a checklist for you to go through before you leave the hospital or while you're in the hospital, just to make sure you're getting a variety of different types of images. An inquiry email response template. So the entire email that's very in-depth that my clients or my inquiries get before they become clients. And it kind of weeds out the people that are not going to spend the money that I want to have my sales goal be at the end of each, client cycle. And also just gives them all the information that they need and does a little bit of upselling as well. My marketing workbook that I was just talking about, how network marketing with the other baby professionals in your market. A workflow checklist. There's actually two checklists. There's a packing list, so you can make sure you have everything in your on-call bag and in your camera bag. And then also a workflow checklist of everything from the time that your client emails you all the way through until you deliver that last 1-year album. Every step that needs to be checked along the way. And then a resource and gear list. So it has every piece of gear that I use, because I get those questions a lot, lenses and camera bodies. And I have a Spider holster belt that I'm just obsessed with because it keeps my cameras really accessible without pulling on my shoulders, which you see with a lot of other holsters. And, what contract I use and a link to the contract and, just everything all in one place. So you're not having to go and find things. This is what it looks like inside the course. I have broken everything down into small chunk videos within those modules. So if you need to go back and find something, it's super easy to go back and find, I wanted to see how she edited that one thing. So you can go back and just watch the editing video. Or what was it she said about that consultation technique, or different things like that. Then it's super easy to go back and find whatever it is that you're looking for without having to go through hours and hours of content each time. But also it makes it where you can only, I just want to watch a chunk before I go to bed, or I just want to watch a chunk while I'm doing the dishes, or whatever. So that's that list again of what all you're going to get. But I also have bonuses. So the bonus modules, the first one, I'm going to be honest, is not even finished yet. I've got some awesome other interviews coming that have kind of popped up later, but is working with special cases. So you're going to have families that have, surrogates or adoptions, or they end up being admitted to the NICU, or rainbow babies. There's a ton of different things that could happen, or that the family makeup is different. And so that actually does change your behavior in the delivery room. And so some thoughts from people who have been through it. This actually is not my image. This belongs to Stacey Hayward, who is one of the interviews in the course about surrogate births. This was a surrogate birth that she did in Canada. And so this couple connected with a woman who was the gestational carrier for them. And then they, were having some flooding here in Texas. They were actually delivered this baby in a flood in Toronto. And so just kind of all the things she experienced working with this type of, alternative family makeup that kind of changes how you interact with the families. Bonus number 2 is super in-depth specifics about my 1-year program. So I show you how I do an in-home newborn session. So this is kind of one of my home setups, and how what I bring, how I bring it, and then what I do throughout a home newborn session. And then actually 3 inside my studio sessions. So this one was the 4-month session. And so with a white sheet set, and how I do that more lifestyle look. And then This one down here, the 8-month session, I actually brought in a family that has 2 older siblings. And so I address how I deal with multiple siblings and getting them all to look at the camera and smile at the same time, and how impossible that can be. So I actually show you my techniques for high key compositing, where you can get individual pictures of each child and then composite them together to create one great image that mom will hang on her wall and cherish forever. That's not super complicated or super intense. And then a 1-year cookie smash session this is one of our good friends and their son Sutton, and he did a full, instead of a cake smash, I'm just tired of cake smashes, so we did a cookie smash session. So when I add in those extra bonus modules, those 300 and 500 modules, then the full program would be a $3,000 course. So this is Diane. She's one of my students, and she was gracious enough to put this testimonial out there for me. She said, "I thoroughly enjoyed the course and was so extremely impressed with the way you put everything together. I'm definitely a seasoned business owner, so I can speak to those who have been in business for a long time and also benefit from your course. I want to say, having come from a medical background, I love your support of hospital births, and I feel this course really completed the training that I needed to increase my birth photography. Thank you for sharing your hard work and vision." And I really did want to make sure we hit hospitals and birthing centers and home births, because you're going to be working in all those different spaces if you decide to go into this market. I will say, if you were to book just one client on my minimum numbers, you would pay for the course back immediately, like fivefold, so many times over. And so you can see why it's a good deal at $3,000. But I know where you are in your business. I've been there. I know that, like, for us, educational resource budgets are low. It just is what it is. And so because I'm doing it online and I'm not having to worry about over and over booking the delivery facility and those types of things, I was able to bring the price of the course way down at $350. But because you come to the webinar, we can actually do it now for $299. And so if you're watching in the webinar broadcast room, there's a button there for you to hit that will take you to the course, or you can put this bit.ly link into your browser and find the front page of the course there as well. So I know you would spend these are numbers that we see all the time because we're always shopping, right? Because we're photography junkies and we love our stuff. So, I mean, you could spend between $500 to $10,000 on a new lens. You know, action sets I've seen from like $200 to $500. We've all fallen into, I don't know, not everybody, but at least I know I have fallen into the trap of magazine, like full page ad spreads, and seen very little return on that. And so those can be anywhere from like $350 to $2,000. If you do a booth at a trade show, if we've done, women's trade shows or bridal fairs or those kinds of things, those booths, I mean, by the time you decorate it and make it look nice, you can easily spend $3,000. But with this investment, you can learn how to set up that unique client experience that is going to keep those clients coming back over and over again and really make them feel valued in your business, which is really what we are all looking to do. That's how we got into photography, because we felt like we could make a difference and we could add value to people's lives by giving them quality images of their family. And that just doesn't, that once again, never gets old. So this is Stella, and she's one of my students, and she's just a doll. And she said so sweetly, "Ashley has a way of teaching that makes you feel like she's talking directly to you. The information is so useful and the breakdown is really easy to follow." So here's the best part. You can actually get paid to take the course. So inside the program, there will be a video showing you how to share the course with your photo friends and get paid for each friend that learns with you. And this is one of the reasons another reason I'm, so big on community in photography, because you're going to eventually probably need a backup if you're going to have, a lot of birth clients. And so you also are going to want to make sure that they're trained properly, and you don't want to have to go back and train them all over again and all that kind of thing. So you can share it with them and you will get paid $50 for every friend that signs up for the course. So that video unlocks 2 days after you get into the course. So if you speed through all of the modules, then it'll be unlocked pretty quickly. And then my system will keep track of how many of those courses get sold from your referrals. And so then I just send that money right back into your PayPal. So I really wanted to kind of take away, the price issue of the course and give you an opportunity to get it and then, share it and make sure we're really expanding the community of birth photographers and people, making kind of an army out there of people who can provide our clients with this super valuable idea and the super valuable photography. I do have a 2-week guarantee. If you decide you just didn't feel right about it, that it's not what you hoped it would be, that I didn't provide the value that you had hoped for, I understand. I will give you your money back, no problem. So let me show you what to do next. Once again, there's a button there that you can hit to sign up for the course, or you can put that bit.ly birth resource link into your browser, bit.ly/birth resource. If you think you might wait, and I know I'm always like, let me sleep on it. Let me think about it. I totally understand. But the price will go up. You will probably spend many more hours behind your computer trying to figure out your marketing again. You'll have to figure it out on your own when I have kind of done all the work for you and laid it all out here and proven that it works. I am no different. I am not the most amazing photographer in the world. I am not the best at Photoshop. There's a zillion ways to skin that cat. And so in the course, I've shown you how I figured it out, but there's just 1,000 different ways to do it. So I'm no special Photoshop wizard. I'm not even the best at client management. I drop the ball sometimes, I get it, but I'm all about figuring out how to streamline my efforts and how to make sure that I am serving my clients the best way possible and then spending as much time as possible with my family. So there's a list again of everything you're going to get. And you know what? I didn't even put in all of the downloadables on that list. I should probably add that. But all 5 basic modules, plus you're working with special cases and the 1-year program. So that total value, $3,000 course for $299. And then I'm going to go over to my face. Hang on, here we go. Hi. And go over some of the questions. So for one of these questions, practical question, how did you do it with being on standby before your husband retired? It was more difficult. Before I had my son, it was a lot easier because I could run out in the middle of the night and my husband could still go to work and we didn't have to worry about anybody. But I do live in a university town that, has a lot of really great babysitters. So we have a couple of nannies that we have throughout the week that know what I do. And so occasionally they're fine with kind of being on the list if I need to pull them in at the last minute. And then I had limited the amount of births that I would take at a time, per month before my husband retired. So I wasn't doing as many. And then my second photographer, actually, one of the things that she does for me is she will either go shoot the birth or she will be my childcare, whatever is more needed at that particular moment. And then I have different ways that I pay her based on how that ends up shaking out at the end. So that's just another reason for the photographer community. I'm just over and over again, we're not competitors, we're artists, and we're here to back each other up as artists and small business owners in our market. So I get a lot, what is your favorite lens to shoot for a birth? And that would be the 35 Sigma Art Series is definitely my favorite because it's wide enough to get the majority of the room. And it's narrow enough, sharp enough when you crop in that those images are still going to be really, really nice when you crop them in from there. And how do you handle newborn and baby shoot schedules when you're on call? So the beautiful thing about the way that I kind of handhold my clients through the process is that they know that I would drop everything for their birth. And so they're very understanding if I tell them that I'm on call for a specific time when I book that session. And I say, I'm going to go ahead and pencil in your session, but just be aware that I am on call for another birth. And so either cut it short or reschedule. And really, I've never had to run out in the middle of a shoot to be on call. Usually, because I have them contact me when they first know that they're in labor before they ever go to the hospital. But then I don't go until 5 or 6 centimeters. I can usually, like in the beginning of that day, kind of move things around and make sure that I can get where I need to be. And having that second photographer as well is always another way that I'm able to kind of be in multiple places at once, or feel like I'm going to be able to be if I need to be. And so if I have booked a wedding, or if I've booked a commercial client that really wouldn't be as understanding because they wouldn't have been in the same situation, then I make sure that I have her on call for the time that I'm not going to be available to just run off and go cover a birth, if that makes sense. I'm trying to think other questions that I get frequently about how long is my on-call window. So I make sure a week before and a week after is like a hard on-call. And then really, because they could go at any point, like I had one that went 5 weeks early, if I have one I know coming up that month, that we're kind of a soft on-call, and, we can go out of town within a couple hours and, make it work, and figure it out. But my hard on-call time is about a week before and a week after the actual due date. So the mentoring session, you are going to get an email. You're going to get a couple emails after this webinar. One is with the replay in case you miss it, and then a couple different more stories. And one of the emails that you're going to get is a survey. So if you fill out the survey, at the end, there's an opportunity to give me your phone number. And so the people that have been through the survey and provide the phone number, I will be selecting a couple of those to get the 30-minute coaching call. And so I will call you. And if I miss you, totally fine. Don't freak out. Like, that doesn't mean that you missed it and it's over. You can email me or call me back, and we'll get it scheduled and we'll get it put down. So keep an eye for that survey email. That's how you get the free 30-minute coaching call. And if you have any other questions, if you have signed up for the Facebook alerts, you can respond to those, and I will get those and answer those questions there. Or you can go to my Figment Photography Facebook page and ask questions through Messenger there, or respond to any of the emails that you've gotten preparing for the webinar. And we can make sure that you're covered and set up. And one thing I didn't mention was that with the course, you also get into my private Facebook group, which is full of other birth photographers. And the support in that group is fantastic. And I've actually had students where they are in the hospital or they're at a birth and they have a question, and they're able to jump into the group and ask those questions. And a bunch of people, can help, even if I'm not particularly available at that particular moment. There's hundreds of, a couple hundred photographers in there, and they can jump in and help answer whatever question or give you ideas for whatever issue that you're having at the time. So like I said, please let me know if there's anything I can help with. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys later. Thanks.